If your DD-214 looks different than the modern version we covered in our previous video, you're not imagining it. The box numbers, what goes where, which field matters for your claim, none of that maps the same way on older forms, and a lot of veterans who served before 1992 are going to pull out their discharge paperwork, and it's not going to look anything like the current version. Different layout, different item numbers, and the VA rater processing your claim isn't going to sit there and cross-reference form versions for you. They have 2 million claims a year, so if your old form doesn't map cleanly to what they're looking for, that gap puts your claim at real risk. Welcome back, my name is Jacob. I am a claims specialist here at vetclaims.ai, where we've helped over 60,000 veterans get the rating they deserve. First thing to get straight, the VA does not hold your military records. A lot of veterans assume they do, but they don't. Your records live in the National Personal Records Center, the NPRC, in St. Louis, Missouri. That's a facility run by the National Archives, and think of it this way. The Archives is the library and the VA is the bank. The bank can't give you anything until it has its books. In a lot of cases, your records are on actual paper stored physically in that building, which means the request process takes longer and the response can be incomplete for reasons that have nothing to do with your service. There's a specific reason why some veterans get a response back that says records not found or records incomplete. In 1973, there was a massive fire at the NPRC in St. Louis that wiped out a significant portion of Army and Air Force records. If you were in the Army and served before 1960, there's roughly an 80% chance your records were damaged or destroyed. Air Force veterans who served before 1964, whose names fall alphabetically after Hubbard James E., are looking at about a 75% loss rate. So if you submit a request and it comes back thin, that's probably why, and you're not crazy, and you're not out of options. Here's what you can do. Buddy statements, people who served alongside you, who can attest to your duties and conditions, those carry weight. Morning reports, unit records, and training documents can fill gaps. And VA Form 21-4142 lets you authorize the VA to pull private medical records. The fire doesn't end your claim, it just means you have to build your evidence from more than one source, and the VA knows this. A missing personal file does not automatically end a claim. Under 38 CFR 3.159, the VA has a duty to assist in developing your evidence and must consider alternate forms of proof like buddy statements and unit records. So now you know where the records are and why some of them might be incomplete. Let's talk about how to actually get them. There are two routes you can take: online through eVetRecs, and by mail using the standard form 180. When you submit online, your information goes directly into the system exactly as you entered it, which means the automated search is working off accurate data from the start. That matters when you're dealing with archival records that may already be hard to locate. Set your expectations right now. Standard processing on an archival request runs 3 to 4 weeks. Some requests take longer depending on your era and branch. Don't panic. If you don't hear back in a week, the system is not designed for speed on paper era records. If eVetRecs doesn't work for your situation, or you just prefer paper, the standard form 180 is your fallback. Download it, fill it out completely, and send it in certified mail to the NPRC in St. Louis. Certified mail matters because you want proof that it was received. The mailing address will be on screen. Write it down. Now, if you're in an emergency situation, a burial, a medical procedure, a homelessness crisis, there's a faster path. Fill out the standard form 180, note the nature of the emergency in the purpose section, and fax it to the NPRC emergency line, and verify the current fax number and contact info at archives.gov before you send, since these details can change. Call the customer service team first thing in the morning. That number gets jammed as the day goes on, so early is the move. Expedited turnaround under emergency conditions typically runs 1 to 5 days. One more thing before we move on. If you separated on or after January 1st, 2015, this process doesn't apply to you in the same way. More recent veterans often have electronically accessible records through DoD connected systems like MilConnect and DMDC services, generally a faster, cleaner process. This video is specifically for veterans dealing with paper era records from before 1992. That's where the complexity is, and that's what we're focused on. If you get a records not found response, that is not a dead end. Go back to what we covered in section 1, buddy statements, unit records, Form 21-4142, you build the evidence from multiple angles. Getting the record is half the battle. The other half is making sure the rater can actually use it. Here's the problem. The DD-214 has gone through multiple versions over the decades. The current form uses numbered blocks. Block 24 is character of service. Block 11 is your primary specialty. But a DD-214 from the 1970s or early 1980s doesn't use those same labels. You might see item 11C, where a modern form says block 24. You might see item 13A, where the current version says block 11. The information is there, it just doesn't wear the same uniform anymore. Claim processors are moving through files at volume. If your old form doesn't obviously match up to what they're trained to look for in the current layout, that field can get missed or misread. So your job, before you ever submit, is to connect those dots yourself. The fields that matter most for a VA disability claim are character of discharge, your MOS, or military occupational specialty, your dates of service, and your decorations and awards. Character of discharge affects your eligibility. Your MOS is how the VA evaluates occupational exposure, what you were actually doing, what you were around, what environments you worked in. Dates of service anchor everything to your service period, and decorations can verify specific events or conditions. Find each of those items on your old form, write down exactly where they appear, the item number, the label, whatever the form uses. Then, in a statement in support of claim, commonly submitted on VA Form 21-4138 through a plain written statement, or VA Form 21-10210 works too. You note it explicitly, something like, item 11C on my DD-214 corresponds to block 24 on the current version and reflects an honorable character of service. You're not interpreting the form, you're labeling it so the rater doesn't have to guess. That's accurate documentation in service of a clear, honest record. And it gives your claim its best chance based on what you actually earned. There's one more scenario worth flagging. If your MOS code on an older form is an outdated code that no longer exists in the current VA databases, it's worth addressing that directly. Don't assume the rater will know what it means. Write a plain English description of your actual duties. What you did day to day, what equipment you worked with, what exposures were part of the job. A short, factual description of your real duties is exactly the kind of supporting context that helps the VA properly evaluate service connection for occupational exposures. And under 38 CFR 3.102, the benefit of the doubt goes to you when evidence is roughly in balance. This isn't about inflating anything, it's about making sure your actual service is accurately represented in a system built around current terminology. The whole point is this: your service record from 1974 or 1983 is just as valid as the one from 2015. The VA's job is to evaluate it. Your job is to present it so clearly that there's no room for confusion. Here's where you stand. Get the record, know where it lives, and present it so your service history speaks for itself inside the VA's process. If you haven't submitted your archival request yet, do it this week. Start with eVetRecs, have the SF-180 printed and ready as your backup, and don't wait on this. What if the record comes back and there are actual errors on it? Wrong MOS, a missing medal, the wrong discharge date? That's a different problem entirely, and it needs a different fix. The DD-214 is how you officially correct errors on your military records before those mistakes work against you in a claim. That's the next video. If you need any help navigating the claims process once your records are in order, vetclaims.ai is where you go. We've helped veterans work through exactly this kind of documentation challenge, not by filing for you, but by making sure you know what you're doing and why. So give us a call and get the rating you deserve. And leave a comment letting us know which topic you want us to cover next.